People often ask, what did you do to see that there is no separate me? They may also ask, what did Eckhart Tolle, Rupert Spira, Ramana Maharshi, Jed McKenna, and a host of other non-dualists actually do to arrive at this? The question appears reasonable because in most areas of life, a result is achieved through a process. So the assumption is, if a certain understanding is present, then there must have been a set of actions that produced it. And from that assumption, another question follows. What are the steps that I need to take to reach the same conclusion? At this point, it is important to separate two different things. The first is what people appear to have done over time. The second is what is being pointed to when it is said that no separate me can be found in direct experience. These two are often treated as if they are the same thing, but they are not the same, and the difference here is not about one producing a result and the other not, but about what is done over time and what can be checked now. Different individuals have engaged in different activities. For example, meditation, self-inquiry, philosophical reasoning, or scientific investigation. In my own case, there was also exploration, including science and certain practices, which appeared to loosen the sense of a separate I. However, it is important to see clearly those activities did not produce the absence of a separate me. Because the absence of a separate me is not something that comes into existence as a result of effort. It is not something that is created over time, and it is not something that is achieved through a sequence of steps. This does not mean that nothing happens or that no activity ever occurs. It means only this: no activity produces a new state in which a separate me has been removed. So what then is actually being pointed to? This may need to be heard more than once because it goes against a very familiar way of thinking. What is being pointed to is something that can be checked directly by looking, not as a method, but as a simple noticing at what is present in immediate experience. This is where confusion often arises, because the phrase checked directly in experience can sound unclear or abstract. So it is necessary to make this explicit. Looking here does not mean analysing or thinking more deeply. It does not mean trying to achieve a result. It means simply noticing what is already present in experience. For example, when attention is directed toward objects in the room, those objects can be seen clearly. A chair is seen, a table is seen, a wall is seen. In each case, there is something visible that can be pointed to. But when attention is directed toward what is being called me, no separate entity can be seen or located in the same way. What is found instead are sensations and thoughts. For example, a thought may appear containing the word me. That thought is present, but the question is, does any separate entity exist in experience that matches that word? In some cases, a simple pointing exercise is used to illustrate this. A finger is pointed towards objects in the room, and those objects are seen clearly. Then the finger is pointed toward where the face is assumed to be, and no face is seen directly. This does not mean that a face does not exist in other ways. It means only this: no separate me can be found in direct experience as an object. The pointing does not create anything new. It only highlights what is already the case. So this is what is meant by checking directly. It is not a method that produces a result over time. It is simply a looking to see whether what is being assumed is actually present in experience. So the question, what did someone do to arrive at this, contains an assumption. The assumption is that the absence of a separate me is the result of a process that unfolds over time. But what is being pointed to is not a result of a process. It is something that is either found to be present or not found in direct experience here and now. So the more relevant question is not what did someone else do? The more relevant question is when what is being called me is looked for directly, is any separate entity actually present? And this question does not require a method or a period of time to answer. It requires only a direct looking at what is already present in experience. Not in order to create anything new, but to check directly whether a separate me is actually present in experience. Because the absence of a separate me is not something that is produced by that looking. The looking does not create the absence of a separate me. The looking only reveals that no separate me can be found in direct experience. So, although people may have engaged in various activities, those activities are not what produced what is being pointed to. They are simply part of the story that appears to unfold over time. But what is being pointed to is not part of that story. It is what can be seen when the assumption that there is a separate me is checked directly in experience. That is all that is being pointed to. Thanks for listening.